prayers of certain individuals who were very impactful. Hashem responded to them immediately. Gemara says a story about Rabbi Moshe Levin that he met Eliyahu Navi. He asked Eliyahu Navi, "Where are you coming from?" Eliyahu Navi said, "I was busy because every morning it's my job to wake up Avraham Avinu, wash his hands, and pray with Avraham, and then I have to wake up Yitzchak, wash his hands and daven with him, and I have to wake up Yaakov Avinu and wash his hands, daven with him." So it took me a long time to get ready for. Took me a long time to get ready for our meeting. I had to pray with the Amitz and Yaakov first. So Eliyahu Navi asked him. Shimon Levi asked Eliyahu Navi, "So why not wake them all up together? Why you wake them up all individually? Why don't you wake them up at the same time?" So Eliyahu Navi said, "Because if they all daven together, what's going to happen? Mashiach will come. It's not yet the time for Mashiach to come. If they pray together, instantly Mashiach's going to come." So Shimon Levi asked him, "Is there anyone alive today that could do the same thing as Avraham and Yaakov?" He said, "Yeah, Rabbi Chaye and his children, if they would pray together, immediate impact." So he gets Rabbi Chaye and his children to daven together. He gets to the words Mashi Baruch, Hashem causes the wind to blow, and the wind blows. They say Merid HaGeshem, the rain falls, and the rain falls. When we get to the words Mechayim Mesim Rachim Rabim, Hashem resurrects the dead, all of a sudden there's this tumult in the world, their prayers are interrupted, they can't continue. So there are unique individuals whose prayers are answered immediately. One of those individuals is in this week's Torah portion. We read about Eliezer trying to find a match for Rivka. Right, Chaye Sarah. Very good, very good. Thank you.
Yeah. You remember.
Actually, there's some communities that they read this Torah portion whenever there is a chassidus, whenever there's a wedding. They add this section in. Anyway, so Eliezer meets the wife for Yitzchak this week. How does he meet her? He prays to Hashem, and as he's praying to Hashem, Terem Kil Ladab, before he finishes speaking, right away Rivka comes out, and she is the one destined to marry Yitzchak. So there are two other individuals we know that the Talmud says that have the same kind of power. When King Solomon built the temple, he said to Hashem, "Hini bane b'nisei zvul beis lach, machal shift chaylamim." I've built for you a home to last forever, and ha'umnam yeshu kim al aretz afke bais hazeh. Is it Hashemayim Hashem Shem Leichal Kalucha? Is it possible indeed that Hashem will rest on the earth? The heavens, the highest heavens, can continue. Can this home possibly continue? And he's asking Hashem's presence to fill the house that he built. And as soon as he makes his prayer, all of a sudden, divine presence fills the first temple. And another person that the Torah says has happened to was Moshe Rabbeinu. When Korach contested Moshe Rabbeinu's prophecy, Korach said, "Whatever you're saying is just coming from yourself. You wanted yourself to be the leader. You wanted your brother to be the Kohen Gadol. So it's all made up." So Moshe Rabbeinu asks Hashem that the earth should, Hashem should respond to them immediately, and the earth immediately opens up and swallows them. So it was also immediate response. So there are many tzaddikim in history, many holy people. And the question is, why were these three people uniquely given this distinction that Hashem answered them right away? And why was it these three prayers specifically that Hashem chose to answer in this way? What's unique about these events? Certainly Moshe's and many other prayers, and so did Shalom Melech, and so did Eliezer. So why is it these three prayers specifically were the ones that had this unique impact? And Marcus is thinking, and how can I get Chaim? How can I have the same impact, right?
Yeah, that's the question.
Don't forget numero uno, man. So before we go further, let's just understand something. There's a verse we say in our prayers every day. Ad mehira yaretz dvarei. Yishach dvarei v'yamsei ad mehira yaretz dvarei. We say Hashem sends His words. That's one pasuk. Hashem sends His words. Ashleich m'rasei yaretz. Hashem sends His word to the earth. And then we say ad mehira yaretz dvarei. His word goes swiftly. So Chassidus explains the two halves of this verse, two phrases in this verse, are talking about two kinds of divine flow. One kind of divine flow is this. Hashem decides something to happen to Rosh Hashanah. It's decided, it's agreed, it's accepted, it's signed, it's written, it's sealed. But when will it happen? So it's Hashem sends His words to the earth. It goes down from world to world, and in each world there's another. You have to go through customs and the border guards of each world until it reaches this world. It goes step by step. That's why Gemara says you have to pray every day, even though Hashem already destined for you the amount of mileage you have for the whole year. But you want to withdraw the mileage today. You got to dive in today to bring down the mileage today. So to access your points. So okay, that's one way. Hashem sends His words to the earth. It goes down from world to world and eventually reaching this world. There's another way, that His word goes swiftly, that immediately as His decision happens in heaven, immediately there's an impact on earth. And when does that happen? So, space and time are connected to each other. That means that, simply, when there are two places which are close to each other, you don't need any time lapse to get from one place to another, because they're right next to each other. When they're farther from each other, then you need more time to get from one place to another. So, when we're talking about an impactful prayer that causes an immediate result, we're talking about something that is very close to Hashem. Let's look at the Rambam for a second. In the laws of tshuva, the Rambam says laws of tshuva in chapter 7. He talks about the greatness of Abal tshuva. He says, yesterday this guy was abominable, this guy was despised, he uses many other adjectives. And then today he is beloved and accepted, Ye'ohu v'yedid, he is called a friend of Hashem, a beloved of Hashem. How great the Rambam says is tshuva. And then in the next halacha, the Rambam says, and by the way, this guy, tzoyik v'nenu miyad. As soon as he turns to Hashem, Hashem answers him immediately. Baal tshuva gets an immediate response. It seems like the Rambam is saying the same thing. He's talking about the greatness of a Baal tshuva. And yet, he divides his accolades for the one who returns to Hashem into two different halachas. And only in the second one does he talk about the impact of his prayers. So what's the difference between halacha Zayin and the following halacha? Why in one does he speak about how great the Baal Tshuva is, but he stops short of saying his prayers are answered immediately, and then in the next halacha he says his prayers are answered immediately? What's the difference? So if you look carefully, the difference is this. Again, in order to cause an immediate impact, you have to be close by. It takes time to travel if you're far away. So the first halacha talks about the power of tshuva bringing you close to Hashem. The second halacha talks about being attached to Hashem, being mudik b'Shechina, being cleaving to the Shechina. If you're cleaving to the Shechina, if you're attached to the Shechina, then just like physically or in space, you are one with Hashem. So therefore, there's also the divine flow that comes to you is also immediate because you're one with Him. So in order to bring the prayer from the response to the prayer from point A to point B doesn't take any time because point A and point B are the same place. You're one with the Shekhinah. So this is also the explanation of these three unique individuals and why their prayers were answered so quickly. Each of these three events in Moshe's life, in Eliezer's life, in Shlomo's life, were all about a scenario where there was a convergence with the Shekhinah. Let's start with Shlomo HaMelech. Shlomo HaMelech, Chaim. Shlomo HaMelech, what is he davening for? He is davening that Hashem's presence should fill the home that he built. So he's asking for revelation in the physical world. He's asking that the Shekhinah should be here in the physical world in a very vivid way. He's asking for the heavens to kiss the earth. That's what he's asking for. There's a discussion between different actually halachists about the way Hashem's presence fills the Beis Hamikdash. One explanation is that it's sort of like the intellect passes through your hand, and you put your ideas on paper. So your hand isn't really isn't coalescing. Is that a word in English? Coalescing?
Yes.
Can we add that one? Okay. Your hand isn't really coalescing with the intellect. It doesn't come in one with the intellect. It's just that the ideas are passing through your hand. However, your brain is actually a vehicle for your intellect. Your brain actually becomes one with your intellect. Your mind and your brain become one. Your brain is housing your mind. Your mind and your brain. Your brain thinks. not just your brain is a place through which your mind thinks thoughts. Your brain itself is thinking because your mind is. It's not like when you have an automatic, like you have a remote control car, where you're just pushing the car along with electric current. Your brain itself is thinking. It's not that your brain is being pushed along with your mind. It's your brain is thinking. Similarly, the Bais Bezalel is a discussion exactly how does the divine presence rest in the Bais Bezalel? Is it that Hashem's presence is just using that space for revelation, or is there an actual change in the space? And one of the things we see an actual change in the space, as Yaakov said when he came to the place of the Bais Bezalel, the place itself is different. One of the we see that the place of the ark took up space and didn't take up space at the same time. That means that the ark itself was not just a conduit through people to experience something on the outside of the ark, but the place of the ark itself was one with the divine light that was in it. There was something of the divine light in the space itself. The space itself is holy. Not just a conduit for holiness, but it itself is holy. Like the brain. In chassidus, the terms are mavin eslapshus. Is it passing through it, or is it becoming one with it? So the Bais Bezalel uniquely, we see how the space itself is holy. It takes up space, doesn't take up space at the same time. Why? Because Hashem's presence is there, and therefore the space is beyond space. So there's a clear convergence of the world and what's higher than the world. And that's why his prayers are immediately responded to, because his prayers are about becoming one with the Shekhinah. Similar thing with Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu's prayer was about his prophecy, that is, to ratify his prophecy. Prophecy is very different to DC Comics, Marvel Comics, Lahavnil, special powers. I know the future. It's not a power to know the future. The idea of prophecy is, as Rambam says, is that the prophet is becoming one with Hashem, and therefore Hashem is speaking through his throat. There is a convergence of the human being in this world, and God is speaking through him. Whereas the Alter Rebbe says in the first chapter, in the second chapter, Sheikh Emunah.
Amuna is my niece.
Huh?
Amuna is my niece.
Wow, nice. What is your niece? So, how old is she?
She is 10.
10. It wasn't chapter 10. I'm pretty sure is in chapter 2, where the Alter Rebbe says, when we say the words God spoke, it's not like in the movies, God speaks as a voice. What does it mean that God speaks to a prophet? What it means is that Hashem's the letters of the Aleph base, that Hashem is revealing himself to the prophet with, they become one with the prophet's mind. They go into the prophet's words, and Hashem is now his light, his presence, his words are in the prophet's mind and words. There's revelation. Hashem speaks means that the Shekhinah is revealed in the prophet's mind. There's a convergence of heaven and earth in the prophet speaking. That's again why when Moshe Rabbeinu prays to Hashem, immediately there's a response. Why is there an immediate response? Because his prayer is about there being a no gap between Hashem and the world. His prayer is about prophecy, and therefore there's a challenge to his prophecy, and Hashem's response is swift and immediate. The earth immediately opens up, because prophecy is also something which is connected to this oneness with Hashem. As we see in the Shema, look in the Shema. What does it say in the Shema? Moshe Rabbeinu says, "I will give you rain in its season." Moshe doesn't give us rain. Hashem gives us rain. Why does he say, "I will give you rain"? What he means is that it's not what he means. Hashem is speaking to Moshe's throat. So therefore Hashem says, "I will give you rain." It's not Moshe giving. Hashem gives us rain. And a similar thing also with Eliezer and Yitzchak and Rivka. Eliezer, Yitzchak and Rivka. Eliezer makes a marriage in Yitzchak and Rivka. Kabbalah explains that Yitzchak and Rivka, their marriage was a preparation for the giving of the Torah. Their marriage wasn't just a marriage of two individuals, but their marriage was a convergence of Ma and Ban, two different kinds of divine energy. Just on the surface, Yitzchak, after he was offered, as we learned yesterday on the Akedah, he was offered by Avram as a sacrifice to Hashem. But by him being designated and consecrated as a sacrifice, he had a different status. He wasn't allowed to leave Israel. It became like a sacrifice. He became godly. And Rivka, on the other hand, she is outside of Israel. She has this terrible father, She is a rose, as the Talmud says, among thorns. She is a holy, special person. She's a rose, but she's among thorns. She is kind of like a divine spark of Hashem, which is trapped in some physical thing. When you make a bracha and use that divine energy for something good, you're elevating, you're freeing the divine spark and bringing it back to holiness. So the marriage of Yitzchak and Rivka is the connection between the two names of Hashem, Havaya and Elokim, Ma, Uban. There's a divine energy which is open and clear, pure. That's seen in the power of a tzaddik, that he was just like Moshe Levin, was transparent to his divine core. And then there is another kind of divine energy which comes to the world through concealment, the creation. Creation is Hashem conceals himself as the name for nature. Hateva, as Merika Kulvan Tolakim, Hashem hides himself in nature. It's also a godly energy, but it's more hidden. So Yitzchak marrying Rivka is a preparation for the giving of the Torah. What happens at the giving of the Torah? Giving the Torah enables us to do mitzvahs. We're able to connect the physical and the spiritual through a mitzvah. What is a mitzvah? The mitzvah physical or mitzvah spiritual? No? Both. A mitzvah is Hashem suspends the borders of the spiritual and the physical. They converge because there's something infinite in a mitzvah that allows there to be a fusion of heaven and earth in the mitzvah. As Hashem said when He gave us the Torah, Hashem said the supernal realms will descend in the lower realms, and the lower realms will ascend to the higher realms. What fueled that event? What prepared that event? The first thing that happened in this world that prepared for that event was the marriage of Yitzchak and Rivka. Yitzchak represents the divine presence, and Rivka represents the world, and there's a fusion between the world and divinity. That's what their marriage is, and therefore Eliezer, who is a servant of Abraham, and the truth is, even from a halachic perspective, the Rashba says, commenting on the Gemara says, Kol ma shekana eved kana rabbi. Whatever a servant acquires, his master acquires. And the Rashba says the way it works is, it's not like if a servant acquires something, he acquires it first, and by his act of acquisition, he thereby also bequeaths it to you, and it becomes yours after he owns it. The Rashba says it's more than that. The Rashba says the moment he acquires it, it's yours. The servant is not an entity to himself. So therefore, in Eliezer's prayers for the marriage, since this is about the convergence of heaven and earth, there's an immediate response. So that explains these three events. Everyone follow so far? Okay. So, Rebbe made this comment. This was a big thing. This is I'm obviously not saying the same words that the Rebbe said, but this is a klal shekol haklam kulum. I think the words the Rebbe used. This is something that is all encompassing. The marriage of Yitzchak and Rivka was a big deal. This is all about everything that has to happen in this world was encapsulated in their marriage, because their marriage is a convergence is bringing the heaven and earth close to each other. It's about spiritual and physical becoming one. It's about the soul and the body becoming one. It's about the purpose of Hashem in creation, Mashiach coming. That's what their marriage is about, and therefore Hashem's response is immediate. So he says, how much more so if a Jew is outside of Israel, and he's not in such a holy space, or even if he's in Israel, but it's time of the exile, and the concealment of godliness. And the concealment is kafel mechupel. Concealment is, as Baal Shem Tov said, is in such a way they don't even realize you're in a state of concealment because the darkness is so thick. And a Jew is trying to do something good. For sure, Hashem answers the Jew immediately. For sure, Hashem listens to the Jew and helps the Jew right away. And then actually added something interesting. He said, and that's why it says in the Torah, Eliezer didn't finish speaking. He started, didn't finish. Why does the Torah emphasize he started speaking? Because it says in the Gemara, a person would rather have one measure of their own wheat than 9 measures of someone else's. Hashem wants us to put our finger in. Hashem wants us to have some ownership of our achievement. Hashem wants us to speak. Hashem wants us to ask. But the truth is that Hashem answers right away. You're trying to do something good, for sure that the Eibush listens to you right away. But in another discourse, the Rebbe connected this with a verse in Tehillim, I think in chapter 68. Geshem nedavis tanufilikim. Magnanimous rain Hashem will send down to you. The Rebbe said that when a person's prayer is magnanimous, it's not for themselves. In other words, like in the same theme of this discourse, when you're trying to do something good, but if you're really thinking about trying to do something good, not about what you'll gain from it, it's really when you totally forget about yourself, to the point that the prayer is about what Hashem wants, and as you're thinking about, then that causes this response. Obviously, we're human beings, and Hashem's not asking us to be less than human, or more than human, because we have to be human. But I think one thing that helps me connect with this concept is we learned many times about Hannah and Eli. Famously, we learned how when Eli sees Hannah in the Bais Hamikdash praying to Hashem to have a child, Eli suspects her for being drunk, and she says, "I'm not drunk. I'm trying to pour my heart out to Hashem." And Eli blesses her, and she has a child, and she says, and she brings her child to Hashem, and he becomes the famous prophet Shmuel. The question is, why didn't Eli is not just a regular guy. He's not just Tom. He knows what's going on upstairs. How could he suspect her of being drunk? How could any person you see with someone pouring their heart in prayer? Okay, it was a new kind of prayer. That's true, but it was she's pouring her heart out. Someone like him should have realized. Someone like him should have suspected something deeper. I know it says in the I don't remember where. Huh?
Maybe he was afraid you call us a nefesh.
Because it's a nefesh.
And he didn't want anybody down in the basement.
Interesting. There is one commentary who says he didn't really know what to do, and he looked into his breastplate, and his breastplate it had the letters Kaf Shin Reish Hey spelled out. So he thought, oh, that spells shikora. She's drunk. Off with your head. Stop. But really, those words also spell kisara. She was actually like Sarah. At that point, she was the same level as Sarah Imenu, and her prayers were totally selfless. Like Sarah, when she prayed for her child, it was a totally selfless thing. That Hashem should have His will fulfilled in this world. So the Rebbe said that we've learned from the story. We have to ask ourselves the question of Eli. We have to answer the answer of Chan. Yes, we're human beings. Yes, whatever we want is because our animal soul also wants good things. But we have to challenge ourselves with the question of Eli and say, do you really deserve this? Do you really want this? Is this really a good thing? Is this only selfish? Is there anything benefit? Is this just about you? So when you ask the question, is it just about you? That it's not meant for you to say, well, a little bit it is. It's supposed to allow yourself to give voice to the part of yourself which says, no, it's not just about me. To let your Chana speak too. What did Chana say? I want a child. I want to dedicate my child to serve Hashem. He's going to do something special for Hashem. We're Jewish. As I mentioned on Shabbos, I think that there's a lot of exposure of soul in this time of history. I think we're all feeling soul. So we're allowed to feel soul. We're allowed to give voice to our soul. You're allowed to ask yourself the question of Eli, do I really mean it? Is this only about me? But you have to respond with soul and say, yes, I do mean it. There's a part of me that wants a shidduch, that wants gezund, that wants parnasa, because for Hashem's ways. You're allowed to give voice to that. And I'm telling you that it's not just you're allowed to, but you have to. Because it's a game changer for Hashem's response. When you give voice to your neshama, and you should, Hashem, I don't want this just for myself, I want this because this is something good for you. What do you want, Hashem? Ask yourself the question. Summon the Chana in you by asking the question. But then let Chana speak. Let your selflessness speak too. The Torah says this: Zvulun should go out to business with joy. Why should he go out to business with joy? Because he make a lot of money. No. Zvulun should go out to business with joy because Zvulun is doing a mission for Hashem. And therefore he's to go out to doing his business with great joy. He's on a mission. So a Jew has to feel that they're on a mission for Hashem, and they have to give voice to that part of themselves. And when you do, what's the response? Terem kilo daber. The Abish responds to you immediately. Geshem and Davish, the magnanimous rain, with a tremendous response. And we should see it happen immediately. We all need Mashiach to come. That's the bottom line. We should see it happen. Any questions or comments?
Does any say anything about discipline? If someone's trying to improve their discipline within this Torah context, that's a tangential question. But you said any question.
Thank you.
I'm inspired by your discipline.
Wow.
Seriously.
Thank you.
Seriously.
I'm going to send you something about it. It's something very, very simple everybody says about discipline is that consistency, which is actually very late in this week's Torah portion, which is another subject about this Torah portion, because Sarah her whole life was the same. One point that it makes is that when you find yourself fluctuating about something, don't say, I forget about it, I'm a failure at this thing. Hashem wants those fluctuations are very meaningful to him. Those good times you have and those things you're challenged by are more meaningful and then the consistent things are consistent. Those like I'm lousy at, let's say, waking up in the morning. Let's say. So the times you get up in the morning, that's a big thing. But I wanted to say something else, which was Rebbe says a simple system is not to do too much at once, and to slowly, incrementally build things up. Slowly, incrementally build things up. When I grow up, I'm gonna start doing that with Hashem.
I'm just like your everyday 6:30 and like straight on to start another 1 mile marker, then back at on a Sunday morning. This is like
Thank you very much. Thank you.
really good.
I'm just having fun, man.